This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. When you visit the doctor, you probably hand over your insurance, your ID, and contact details. It's just one of the many places that has your personal info. And if any of them accidentally expose it, you could be at risk for identity theft. LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second. If you become a victim, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year at lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Menopausal and perimenopausal women, listen up. It's time to take control of your health and comfort, and Winona is here to help. Winona is a telemedicine company for menopause care who believes that your symptoms are real, important, and deserve to be taken seriously. And for many women, this starts with hormone replacement therapy. Winona's HRT is made with plant-based, bioidentical hormones rather than synthetic ones, so it better aligns with your body to offer relief from hot flashes, weight gain, and other uncomfortable symptoms. 80% of women who use Winona find relief within just 90 days. So, what are you waiting for? Get started today. Visit buywinona.com today to start your free visit. With free shipping and the ability to pause or cancel at any time, your path to wellness has zero obligations. Use code SPRING24 at buywinona.com for 25% off your first treatment plan. That's BYWINONA.com for 25% off. Winona. Menopause care made easy. Summer is the season of hot temperatures, outdoor adventures, and refreshing water activities. Summer is also the season of rough on your feet, causing dry, cracked heels and toes. Introducing Babyfoot, the original exfoliation foot peel that contains 16 natural extracts formulated to remove dead skin cells in 3 easy steps. Apply the booties, relax for an hour, then wash your feet. In 14 days, you've got baby smooth skin and your feet have never been softer. Letting dead skin cells build up over time is hazardous to your foot health. Our professional-grade DIY products, like our original exfoliation foot peel, our men's foot peel, or our moisturizing mask, are some of the best foot care products on the market, created with your foot health in mind. Pamper yourself with a spa day from the comfort and convenience of your own home with Babyfoot. If you want a chemical-free, easy-to-use exfoliating process from the company that created the original foot peel, it's time to treat yourself to Babyfoot. Go to babyfoot.com and use the code SUMMERFEET24 and get 20% off your first order with Babyfoot. That's babyfoot.com and use the code SUMMERFEET24.
Hello and welcome to the attic. Here, living in the attic, is the first wife of a tormented rich man, kept hidden from the world, a trope that is immortalized in the book Jane Eyre. But guess what? My guest today is finally giving this wife in the attic a happily ever after. Folks, welcome to Too Stupid to Live, a podcast that reviews romance novels $5 and under. This isn't an attic, it's a podcast. I mean, I hope you knew that, but sorry for, lying in the beginning. I was just trying. Anyway, guys, I'm your host, Becky Feldman, and I am so excited about today's episode. Okay, so I heard about this Audible exclusive from someone that I know from the Frolic Podcast Network, which this podcast is on. And so I heard about it, and I was like, you know what? Fuck my social anxiety. I need to reach out and get this writer on the show. And I did, and I'm so excited. So my guest today is Rose Lerner, who's the writer of the audiobook The Wife in the Attic, which deconstructs the gothic trope of the love triangle in which there is a wife in an attic. So I just started listening to it and I love it. And you know what? I actually had like a Jane Eyre dream last night, and you will too. Love it. Not have Jane Eyre dreams. I mean, have Jane Eyre dreams. Listen, but you're going to love it. In fact, you are going to love it right now because here is an excerpt of it.
Master's orders, ma'am. All doors are locked at night to keep out thieves. May I keep the key? I pressed, heedless of her lamp stoking my hectic flesh and pitilessly illuminating my muddy shift and shapeless chest. I'm afraid not, ma'am. I'm sorry. Master's orders. But you're quite safe. We've never had a fire in all my years here. Golden Grove has good stone walls, not like the flimsy wooden buildings you're used to in town. I could not argue anymore. Very well, I said, with feigned cheerfulness. Good night. I shut the door very slowly The lock turned loudly. Mrs. Cross's footsteps retreated. I flew to the room's other door to try the handle. Locked. My shaking fingers could not make sense of the curtain's tasseled pulls. God, I hated my weakness. Seizing the curtain itself, I dragged it back to examine the window. There was no window. The smooth, panelled walls extended behind the curtain. White, blank, and impenetrable.
I mean, is your heart pounding right now? Because, like, mine sure is. I cannot wait to listen to the rest and bake cakes just for myself. It's my favorite thing to do, listen to an audiobook and bake desserts just for me. Anyway, let's just get to this interview already. So please enjoy my chat with Rose Lerner. Rose, welcome to Too Stupid to Live.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you. When I first heard about this, the Audible book that you were writing, I was like, I need to have her on because two books that I read that launched me into this genre was Jane Eyre and Rebecca. And there is the trope of the crazy woman in the attic.
Yes. Rebecca.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That book is that's a thing that happened. Wow.
Right? Yeah. It's just sometimes like, this is a weird thing to say right off the bat. We just met, but, you know, sometimes I have these thoughts where I'm like, you know, sometimes I feel like the crazy woman in the attic. Am I, though? You know what I mean?
I mean, I feel like the thing about, like, in Jane Eyre, like, the wife in the attic is sort of, I mean, not to get too, like, whatever, like, Jungian or whatever, but she's, like, the shadow self, right? Like, she is the part, she, like, is the other, the monster that cannot be acknowledged within the self, but I don't really buy into that sort of idea of, like, there are people who are monsters, so I feel like it's fine to feel like the wife in the attic because she's just a part of us.
Yes, I'm not a monster.
That we can embrace.
Yeah. Embrace your inner monster. That's one thing you guys want to take away from this. But Rose, before we begin, let me learn about you. How did you get started in reading romance and then transitioning to writing romance? Looking back as a kid, I always loved like stories with romances in them. But in terms of like romance novels, I feel like my middle school had this thing called the mentoring program where they would ask you what you wanted to do when you grew up. And then they would try to find somebody who would was willing to mentor you. And so I guess told them that I told them I wanted to be a writer because they paired me with a writer. I don't remember thinking of that as something that like I could do. You know what I mean? That was like actually attainable, but clearly that's what I told them. And they paired me with the local writer. And she told me that she knew somebody who wrote full time. And it was a romance author, Carola Den, actually, who wrote Old School Regencies. And I checked some of her books out of the library to prepare for maybe getting to meet her. And I loved them. And I immediately checked out like 9 more of them. And the rest is history. I remember those early days when I didn't like, I mean, obviously I knew it was a genre, but it was like, I didn't have a good way to find other ones. So I was just kind of like wandering around the library looking for books with like covers that seemed like Regency romancy to me. Yeah, like the ones that like are like bent, you see where like the broken like parts of the spine are, and you're like, those are the sex scenes. That's a romance.
Well, traditional Regencies didn't have sex scenes, so unfortunately that was not useful. But then I discovered there was like a paperback rack in the back corner of the library, which I had never noticed before. That was exciting, but yeah.
I think it's so like it kind of is so mind-boggling to me just after like talking to other authors and writers, like that when you were in middle school and you were like, I want to be a writer, and the person who was mentoring you was like directed you right towards romance and like allowed you to like embrace this genre before you even like encountered any of like the stigma that like everyone else faces. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I remember telling, because she said to me, you know, like, this lady writes Regency romance, and I had no idea what that was.
Mm-hmm.
But I just sort of, I am a person who tends to pretend that I know what's going on.
Oh,
So
I'm doing that right now. Don't worry.
Yeah. I just like smiled and nodded, and I was like, okay. And then I got off the phone and I asked my mother, like, what's Regency romance? And my mom like started to laugh because she had read them in like the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like trying to explain to me what it was. And she was like sometimes people will get sick and the other person has to nurse them back to health. Like she was trying to just like, I did not, like she explained it in retrospect very well, but like I definitely like didn't have the context to really process what she was telling me.
Mm-hmm. That's so funny. So she kind of avoided saying that there was like love. It was all about like, do you know what I mean?
I mean, she told me that they were, I mean, I understood that they were romance.
Oh, I see.
It was in the name, but it was like, she was trying to explain to me what a Regency romance was. And she was like, well, it's kind of like Jane Eyre and like, you know, like, but she was like trying to explain like kind of standard tropes that you might find in like a Regency romance. And like, I distinctly remember that one of them was like getting sick and having to be nursed back to health. But like, there were others that I don't remember what specifically was, but,
that's awesome. And
that really stuck with me because I just had no way to process or understand what that really meant, how that would play in a romance, you know, but now I'm like, oh yeah, she was completely spot on.
And is that like the sickness usually like tuberculosis or something, or?
Well, no, because you die from that. It's like, it's got to be like a fever or like pneumonia or something, right? And then it's like you're like you're like delirious, and the other person has to like sit by your bedside and nurse you, right? Like that classic trope.
Oh, that classic trope.
Often right after you have a fight, right? So it's like, this is like a way for you to bring them back, reel them back in without having to ask, because now you're helpless and they have to, you know, they can't be mad at you anymore.
Getting sick is the ultimate guilt trip post-fight. So if you ever get in a fight with anyone, get sick, your marriage will be okay. Your relationship will be fine.
I feel like Cat Sebastian's The Ruin of a Rake deployed that so beautifully. Which is like such an excellent, like that trope, that Sylvester or the wicked uncle trope where like well, I don't even want to spoil it, but like people that know what that trope is know what I'm talking about. Like, it's like they've just had this big fight and then it's like, oh no, Julian's malaria flares up. And like, you can't be mad. Like, you can't be mad at him. Look how sad he is. Look how sick he is. He needs you.
Yeah. I read a lot of romantic suspense, and usually, like, the part where the character gets sick in Regency in suspense, it's usually they're, like, blown, like, they're in an explosion or they're shot. So it's like, whenever, like, the fallout happens, I'm like, well, one of them's going to get shot. And then and that happens, and then they get back together, and it's amazing.
I get really stressed like when people in romances like have just been shot and then they have sex.
Oh, I know.
I'm like, this seems very dangerous. I don't think you should do it. You are absolutely going to reopen your wound. Like,
yes,
maybe wait. Like, just do it. Give them like an IOU, like a rain check. You know, like a coupon, like good for one sex after you are not shot anymore.
Exactly.
Like,
just let the stitches heal that you probably sewed yourself, by the way, because we are on the run from a monster. And then
just like poured brandy over it or something.
Yeah. And like you, like during sex, you don't even like worry about being like I'm just picturing getting stabbed, because I read one book where she was stabbed in the stomach and then healed and they had like wild sex and the stab wound was not mentioned. But I kept thinking like, she has like a huge stitches like in her stomach, and like she's able to like withstand. I mean, I loved it. Don't take me wrong, I loved it, but like it always stuck in the back of my mind.
I get very stressed out by that. Like, it's like, I know obviously that they're not going to like jar the wound and then get sick, right? Like, I know nothing bad is going to happen. I also feel this way sometimes about public sex in books. Like, it's like, I understand that nothing terrible is going to happen, but I'm just like, someone's going to catch you. You're going to get in trouble.
I also feel that way about shower sex because I'm like really big on like, well, I guilt myself, wasting water. That's the reason.
Oh, I was going to think like falling over, because I always worry that they're going to slip on the tile.
That's the second thing. But the first thing is like they're wasting
Especially
water.
when they're sexily soaping each other. And I'm just like, well, now the floor is slippery.
Yes. And the fact that like no one's foot goes on the ledge to like balance, like the fact that they're flat foot and when they're facing each other, that's even more like balancing act, and the fact that they don't fall is mind-blowing.
I mean, I guess they're more coordinated than I am, clearly.
I know. The bottom of the tub has like a really good like slip resistance.
Yeah, they could mention that though, right? It's like how you always mention the condom so people don't have to stress out. It's like, just mention that there's a slip resistant mat.
Mention that, and mention that there's no such thing as drought in romance, and then I will be happy with that shower sex. Okay, so you found out about historical romance. You were borrowing books from the library. What got you writing?
So I had this friend. So I was reading like on and off what I could find at the library. And then I noticed that a friend of mine, who was at that time a fairly casual acquaintance, was reading a Georgette Heyer novel. I mean, which I had not read Georgette Heyer, but I recognized from the cover that it was a Regency romance. She was sitting in front of me in class, and I was like, what is that I see? And so it turned out that she also read, and her mom read them. And so she loaned me her Heyers, and then I loaned her, and then we were like Regency friends. And we actually had an embarrassing fan club called Regency Romantics Anonymous. And we made ourselves like buttons and stuff.
That is so
cute. We had a little newsletter.
Did you wrote a newsletter like for each other?
Yeah. Nobody else read it. I mean, maybe our moms read it, but I mean, like, it wasn't distributed to anybody.
That is so sweet. Do you remember any of like the articles you wrote, or like anything in particular?
Oh yeah, I wrote an article. I think we only did like 2 or 3 newsletters. Like, it wasn't a very long sustained project, but I feel like there was one that was like, we were doing like breakdowns of hero archetypes, I think. Like, I remember doing one that was like about like explaining the Corinthian, which like, I don't know if anyone remembers that from old school Regency romances, but it was basically like a hero who was both a rake and also very athletic, ? Like, and fashionable. It was silly. Like, it was silly, which is the point. It was a very like it was a humorous newsletter, right? So I was like making explaining that like, if this guy's mother died, he'll just go a shade whiter under his tan. Like, don't even worry. That always cracked me up. It was like something terrible would happen, and the hero would just go a shade whiter under his tan, and like nothing, no other reaction. It's like, it's okay. Like, you can move your muscles in your face. Like, I think.
Well, no, yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I'm getting a sense that you were so intuitive about like tropes at such a young age.
I guess I was. I don't know. What else? I mean, I think we had an advice column, but obviously we wrote the letters as well. It's like, it wasn't really an advice column. It was like here's a joke we want to make, so we're going to write a thing that sets it up, right? Mm-hmm. So then me and that friend tried a couple of co-writing projects together, and none of which we didn't really have the staying power to we didn't actually finish any of them. Mm-hmm. We were going to do one. I mean, it was very derivative, but it was like some kind of highwayman romance that we were working on together. Mm-hmm. And then there was this book. There is this book, but it's by Patricia Reedy and Caroline Stevermer, and it's called Sorcery and Cecilia. Although I think now it might be published as The Enchanted Chocolate Pot. It's like gone through a couple different titles, but it's written in the form of letters, and they each wrote, it was like they did it as, they called it the letter game. And it was like one person wrote the letters as from one character, and the other one wrote the letters as the other character. And it was like it was a Regency romance with mad fantasy elements. And it was like 2 heroines who were cousins who were writing to each other, and they each had a romance. And I was like obsessed with this book. I mean, it was fantastic. It was adorable. I should probably reread it. I haven't read it in years, but we decided it was like, I think it was like my birthday sleepover when I was like 15 or something, 16, I don't know. And we decided that we were going to try playing the letter game, and bored, I'm sure, all of our other friends to death, just like scribbling letters to each other at like 3 a.m. And like, I'm such a control freak, but I was like annoyed. I remember because I set up plot elements, mm-hmm. and then I was like, she didn't right? I was like, I feel like I set up very clearly what was supposed to happen next, and you didn't pick, right? Like, you're not doing what I wanted you to do. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, I need to express my own artistic vision. So I wrote, but I really enjoyed it. And so I wrote my senior year in high school. I wrote my first Regency romance.
Oh, it was my God.
Not, I would say, very good, but like it had some charm. It had some funny jokes. Like,
that's so impressive in high school.
Thank you. Well, I mean, Georgette Heyer published The Black Moth when she was 19, and it's significantly superior, I can tell you, to what I was producing. But, in terms of like sort of craft, like I think I still stand behind that story probably if I think about it. But like, I mean, there were some things that didn't really make a lot of sense, but like whatever, But I feel like just craft wise, like the pacing was non-existent, and like,
You got the first one out of the way. Maybe you'll revisit it. Now tell me about the next books you have written.
Wait, all the books that I've written, or like?
Oh yeah,
just
no, I'm just kidding. Just
one?
like tell me about how you became an established writer. Yeah.
So gosh, after that I wrote A Lily Among Thorns, although it wasn't published. It wasn't the first book that I published, but it was my second book that I wrote, and the first, I would say publishable book that I wrote. Although I shudder to think that first book I sent it to some agents, but whatever. I'm sure they realized I was a child, but.
Yeah, I think that's a common thing to like be embarrassed about things you did when you were younger, when you get into like a creative field and you're like, I can't believe I did that. And people read it.
well, luckily, no. I mean, they read the cover letter. I don't think anybody read the but so then my first book that I sold was In for a Penny, which was maybe I can't remember. I feel like maybe I tried writing a couple things that didn't go anywhere in between. But then, so I sold that, and then I wrote Lily Among Thorns. Then I rewrote Lily Among Thorns and published that. And then I have been working on the Lively St. Lemiston series, which is a small town Regency series for the last little while. So yeah, and now I have a lesbian Gothic coming, or a queer, an FF Gothic. Coming out, that it's like set in it's loosely linked to the Lively St. Lemiston books. Like it's set in that world, but definitely like a darker Gothicier, Gothicier, right?
Sure,
like,
yeah.
Gothier, goth and Gothic are sort of
that's
separate,
just a lot of
but related.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
This is such a weird question, but like, can you define Gothic and like Gothic romance and what sets it apart from like Regency romance?
Yeah, so Gothic romance is definitely, I would say it's sort of a cross between like, not all Gothics are romance, I guess. Like there are, like I've read Gothics that didn't have a happy ending, but I would say a Gothic romance, what distinguishes it from a straight historical romance is that it's sort of a cross between that and like a domestic thriller, I would almost say. Like there's sort of some elements of like horror and suspense that are brought in. And I think it's much more... even if there is a central romance, it's like much more defined by, like it should feel less, the reader should feel less confident that the love interest is trustworthy. Like there's this essential element of like mystery and mistrust of like, it is like a lot of older Gothics, there's this element of like, there's like a murder or like some kind of thing. And it's like, I remember there was this trope and it was like the heroine would realize that she loved the guy. And then she'd be like, but is he a murderer? And then it's like, I didn't care if he was a murderer. I still loved her. I remember that always really annoyed me. Like in like a lot of the 70s ones. Not everybody did that, but like Victoria Holt was really big on that. And it's like, maybe you should, like, because he would maybe also murder you, like, you know?
Yeah, he knows
like,
how
that's
to
the thing
do
with
it.
Rebecca. That's the thing with Rebecca. It's like, don't be the second wife of someone that killed their first wife. Like, there's like a clear pattern of behavior that's like not in your interest.
And like, also, going back a little bit, don't marry someone after a week of meeting them on vacation.
Oh, yeah.
I don't
Especially
know.
when they are already clearly like volatile and erratic and like punitive.
Yeah. And like withholding and like there's lady. There's not much there.
I know, like, your boss is like annoying, but it's like, it could be worse, frankly. Like, it could be worse than Edith Van Hopper. And like, you're about to find out. Like, I sort of enjoyed, have you seen the recent Rebecca adaptation?
I didn't, because I was nervous, because I love the Alfred Hitchcock and I love the book, but that wasn't getting good reviews, I feel like. And so I didn't want it to ruin the story for me. But
I didn't love it. It didn't ruin the story for me. I mean, I've seen several. Like, I actually really loved, there was one in the 70s with Jeremy Brett as Max de Winter. And I cannot remember who the second Mr. Winter was, but I thought it was, I think Anna Massey was, I'm so bad with names. I think Anna Massey was Mrs. Danvers. But it was like quite good. And it was like kind of a different take. It did like a much more off-putting Max de Winter than the Hitchcock version. And I really enjoyed it. But I didn't think the modern one was that great. And obviously now there's the whole situation with Armie Hammer, and I don't even know what's going on.
I just got on Twitter and it's like Armie Hammer's trending and I'm like, something's bad.
Yeah,
I don't have the mental space
get into it.
Yeah.
So I feel like at this point it's too late to watch it, maybe. But I didn't love it. Something I thought was interesting at the end, I didn't object to it as much as other people did, because at the end she has this voiceover that's like, but it was all worth it for love. And it was like, now, I don't necessarily feel that it was intended to be taken literally. Like, I don't necessarily feel that I, the reader or the viewer, was supposed to feel, and of course it was worth it because love. I mean, I was supposed to think that she thought so, right? But I didn't necessarily feel that I was being told that was true. But I did feel that was sort of contrary to the spirit of the book, where it seems like maybe actually you're in basically the same situation you were in with Edith Van Hopper, right?
Yeah.
Where you're just like going around to European watering places, like being sort of demeaned, like and belittled.
Yeah.
So.
So tell me about how the idea for Wife in the Attic came about.
So I read, this is sort of, I read like this random Maria Edgeworth novel. Well, I didn't read the whole thing, but I read a part of it for a previous book that I wrote, All or Nothing, where I needed something for the heroine to read. And I sort of remembered this reference to this book, Castle Rackrent by Maria Edgeworth. That's sort of this like, I haven't read the whole thing, so I can't speak to the whole thing. I get the impression it's sort of a picaresque family saga. But there's this section where spoilers ahoy, but
oh my God,
not for the book, but for my book. But
oh my God. So we all know how they end.
You retain a little plausible deniability, but basically, yeah. But so this guy had kept his Jewish wife locked in her room, trying to get her to sign over like her jewels to him or something, and making her like feeding her like pork as like a form of abuse.
Yeah.
And there was this thing where like when this guy that was keeping his wife, in her room, told his servant that when he was courting her, he called her my pretty Jessica, which is a Merchant of Venice reference to the interfaith marriage and that. And so that really stuck with me as this like something that I always find very disturbing, and that is very much a part of sort of the Gothic genre, is this sense that like the whole kind of virgin whore thing where it's like, or the pedestal, right, where it's like like a man can turn on a dime, right? He can go from worshiping you to hating you in like a split second, and he will, you can't trust, no matter how nice he seems, no matter how much he seems to like you. I mean, not that this is like universally true, but like, like this, that like, it's like it's very hard to know if you can trust that as like an attitude that will last, or if like, maybe you're just on the pedestal now, but like you could come off it. Right.
Yeah.
Which I think is where this idea with like Rebecca of like looking at how they treat other women is maybe like a very useful, right? It's like, if you're the only person they're nice to, like it's not gonna, right? That doesn't last. But but then I was thinking about like, what if you combine this story? And don't worry, it worked well. I mean, obviously it was very traumatic for her to be locked in her room for 7 years, whatever, but it did work out for her. Sir Kit, the guy in Castle Rackrent, died in a duel because all of the ladies, this is so sad, that all of the ladies in the neighborhood were like vying to be his next wife because I think they thought that she was sick, right? And so they were all vying to be his next wife, and one of their brothers somehow ended up in a duel with Sir Kit and shot him. And so she took her jewels and went back to England.
Oh, good.
Peace out. Yeah.
Thank God for duels.
But so I was thinking, what if you introduced a governess into this house, right? Like, what if you merged this with like a Jane Eyre story? And the rest is history. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever read the book Wide Sargasso Sea?
I have not, but I do know what it is, and I've read about it.
Yeah, it was like one of like this mind-blowing books, and I feel like that's how yours kind of compares to, you know what I mean? Like just like making the woman in the attic kind of the love interest. And it's like seeing her story, because like what Wide Sargasso Sea does is like it just tells the story of the first Mrs. Rochester and like how miserable she was. And like when I read Jane Eyre and Rebecca, I always empathized more with the crazy woman than the new one who's like perfect.
Well, I mean, I don't think that's fair to either Jane or the second Mrs. De Winter, neither of whom are perfect in any way. Like they're both hot messes.
Yeah, they're both flawed. Yeah.
But I see what you, I mean, I agree that they're both very sympathetic figures, the first wives. And I think the thing about Jane Eyre, it kind of ties back to what I was saying, is that if you believe what Mr. Rochester is saying about his marriage, he hasn't maybe done anything categorically wrong.
Right.
But why would you, there's no reason, there's no reason to take him at his word, really. Like you have to just take it on faith that he's being honest. And since he's already been massively dishonest, if he's lying, he could have done anything to that woman, right? Like, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
And, it was certainly, I don't want to say common necessarily, but there were certainly many cases of people having their inconvenient wives committed to get rid of them.
Yeah.
So,
because it seems like in these books, like the first marriage obviously was of convenience more than love, seemingly. You know what I mean? To like get a dowry, that one, those things, the jewels, things like that, more so. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem like it was about love, and that's sad, Yeah,
and I think, and in both cases, right, it's not even, I think, it's yes, it's for money or dynasty or whatever, but it's like also this desire, I feel like, I keep up with the Joneses is not the right word, but it's trying to present a certain lifestyle, right? Like, Mr. Rochester wants to marry the first Mrs. Rochester because he'll look like, you know, like, because she's a catch and like he'll look good and he'll look like he has this successful, you know, life or whatever if he marries her, which I think is also the case with Rebecca of like, he marries her because it's like, I mean, I haven't read that one in a minute, but I feel like when he describes their courtship, it's like, it seemed like I would be cool if I married her because like everyone was into her.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And like, it's this desire to present this type of like facade to everyone rather than like actually looking at what you want, you know?
That's awesome.
And I guess there's also like class comes into it too, right? Because like Mr. Rochester, and I think that is an element in Rebecca, although like less of a, like more of maybe a subtextual one. But like the class stuff in Rebecca is like a little elided or understated sometimes, even though it's clearly there. But like with Mr. Rochester, like he's clearly sort of this, you know, if you look at the book, it's actually set in the Regency, even though it's always like filmed like with Victorian stuff because that's when it was written. But if you actually look at the markers, the time markers in the book, it's set during the Regency. And there was this whole genre of like proto-Regency romances in the Victorian era called Silver Fork novels. Ooh. And they were set in the Regency. Yeah, because it was like they would talk about like the fancy clothes and everyone had silver forks, right? But it represented this sort of pre-Victorian aristocratic lifestyle of like excess, like immoral excess kind of, right? Like the modern Victorian, supposedly the modern Victorian aristocracy was like better behaved. Whereas like they were just like rapaciously like, you know, drinking and fucking. And, oh, sorry, can I swear?
Oh my God. Yeah. Say whatever you want. This
rapaciously like drinking and fucking and eating everything and like, you know, fox hunting across the fields of their virtuous tenants or whatnot. And so like and then of course at the end, the rake is reformed in the same way that the Regency era is like reformed by the Victorian era, right? Like the middle class, the virtuous middle class reforms the degenerate aristocracy.
Whoa.
And it's like,
that's kind of mind blowing a little bit.
I know. When I first read that, I was like, oh, you're right. Wow.
Yeah.
So I think like the first marriage, right? And like there's the scene with Blanche Ingram where she's like, well, clearly they don't like each other, but I guess they're rich and like it's a cultural difference. Like she literally is sitting there thinking like, well, I guess this is like a class cultural difference where like they're cool with they're, you know, aristocrats and they're cool with just marrying people they don't like. I guess I should be tolerant of their weird way of doing things. And so I feel like, yeah, it's like the first marriage is like an aristocratic marriage, whereas the second marriage, the love marriage is sort of like abandons that sort of class ethos for like a more wholesome one or something.
Yeah, it's always second time's a charm in this case. So do you want to talk a little bit about the premise of the book?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
I mean, it's kind of, you know, I feel like it's kind of there at the time, but like basically, so there's a, this young woman, or she's not that, but like, you know, she's a woman of a certain age, I guess.
So she's 20, almost 28. No, I'm kidding.
she's 34. She's 34.
Oh my God. I love this book even more.
So, which is really sad because that was I think the age that I was when I started writing it, which was now so long ago. Like I'm now significantly older than her. I mean, not significantly, but you know. But she is like kind of, you know, living in genteel poverty in a boarding house, giving guitar lessons. And she's offered this job as governess. And she's like, financial security, excellent.
Yeah.
And better food, awesome. So she takes the job and she goes and you know, everything seems fine. She's kind of vibing with her boss, but like the kid's mom is like she's sick and she doesn't leave her room. And she just like still like, it's like weeks go by and she still hasn't met her. And she's just like, seems weird, but like, I guess she's just really sick. I don't know. But like, she sort of just starts to sense like over time that something is maybe not quite right.
Mm-hmm.
And things go from there.
And things get crazy.
Yeah. And of course it's a romance between her and the wife in the attic.
I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness. Did you originally pitch it before you finished writing it?
I hadn't quite finished it, but I actually had written most of it.
Uh-huh.
So it was mostly written. So it wasn't specifically like written to be an audiobook, although I did then go back and tweak some things to make it more audio friendly.
Cool. So yeah, it seems like you're going Audible before publishing the print version.
It's an Audible original, and it's exclusive to Audible for like the first like 6 months or so.
Nice. Yeah. How was it going about that process, and how was it different than going from print then to audio?
I mean, I guess like in some ways it wasn't that different, and then in some ways it was really different, because I think the thing with, I wrote notes for the narrator on like the different characters and kind of how I imagined them. Although, I guess I didn't necessarily expect her to like follow it super closely, but just, if it's helpful.
Sure.
And then I also went through and I kind of, a very petty pet peeve of mine is like when there's like and if it's just an audiobook, it is what it is. But since it was original for audio, I felt like when it's like the narrator delivers a line sarcastically and then they have to say he said sarcastically, and I just like I just feel that it is not fair or necessary. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I tried to go through and take out as many of those as I could and stuff like that. It was just like, I've wanted to have an audiobook for so long. Like this is like so exciting for me. And I haven't even gotten to listen to it yet. Like as we're recording, they don't like the final file is not ready. So, but I really loved the narrator's audition. Like I loved it. And I've had a couple of conversations with her about like the characters and stuff. And like, I really felt like I felt like she got it. And like, I really loved, like she had really like good questions that in some cases I was like, I don't know. Like you're just
do it. You.
Yeah. Like what, like really deep. Like, I guess this is like the difference between an actor and an author, because like, I'm like, if it's not on the page, I don't need to know, like what does this character do for fun? Like,
I love that.
Maybe like,
so, you were able to like kind of not like sit in more or less on the audition process for this?
Well, I mean, they had like 3, I think, like I was not part of the like search or anything like that, but they let me listen to the audition tapes that were submitted and asked what I thought. So
that's awesome.
Which was very nice of them. I appreciated that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so cool that you get to like be involved with it. That's awesome. What else do I want to ask? So one of the things that I went on your website and you talked about in addition to writing, you also do historical research for other books. And I have so many guests who haven't read romance on this show, and like they're always like, a lot of them are so fascinated about like how like authors know about all these historical elements or whatever subgenre it's in. And so can you talk a little bit about that? Because I find that so fascinating.
Well, I guess could you like narrow it down? Like
you do like for other writers, you'll do research on like different historical eras.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So specifically what I do for other folks. I mean, typically what the kind of thing that I've got is I've either gotten like fact checking. So it's like, they'll give me, I haven't done like a full manuscript fact check yet, although I might have one lined up for this year. Fingers crossed. I would definitely love to do more of that. Although I understand it's kind of a luxury, I think, for a lot of authors, but like they'll send me a passage or a chapter or like a specific thing that they're not, and and I do also do this to an extent for authors when I'm doing a regular edit, if it's a time period that I happen to know about.
Yeah.
But and if I think that something isn't historically accurate, I'll mark it for them. And depending on what they've asked me to do, I might look it up myself and give them some references. A lot of what I've done though is when someone is starting a new book, I haven't done so much oh, I want to know about the Regency or whatnot, although I could, but I mean, it's typically been authors who are starting a book and there's some specific area of research that they are, is new to them for that book. And they want and I'll find I'll make them a list of places to start. So it's say they want to write a hero who's a member of parliament and he is doing work on the Corn Laws. Right. So then I'll give them a list of books about how Parliament worked and different members of Parliament biographies maybe, or information about the Corn Laws. I'll find some websites online maybe that would be helpful, or some scholarly articles that might be useful to them, and I'll give them a document of here are some places to start. And then then once they've read that, then I think a lot of times it's that you need that kind of foot in the door. Because it's once you start, it's not that hard, necessarily. If you have a book, the first book on a subject, it has footnotes and there are more books on the subject in there. And, but it's getting that first, angle, I think is, either people, just I'm good at it and they're this is awesome, I can outsource this, or they don't, they're intimidated by it, or, and so that's something I really love. And I think that I'm good at it. I'm very, me and Google are buds. I mean, not, necessarily the corporation, but the search engine. I definitely, I pride myself on being a good Googler, and I have definitely had experiences where somebody will be I've been Googling this for an hour and I can't find it. And I'm 10 minutes later, here's the article that you need. I think a lot of it is just being able to think of unusual search terms. So I've figured out, for example, that if you need to search for information about Parliament in the Regency, you should put the word unreformed in your query, because there was the Reform Act of 1832. So the Parliament before that was the unreformed Parliament. And so, and it's a very unusual word. So it's not a word that's going to get you a lot of false hits. Right. So if you put that in there, you will be, it will narrow your search for you in a very useful way.
Cool. What that kind of reminds me of? How on superhero shows, there's the person behind the computer and they're I need facial recognition. And they're boop, 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 boop. And then the face comes up in 2 seconds. You're that for romance authors.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that. I'm in. And if anyone is interested in that service, my website for my freelance stuff is rosedoestheresearch.com.
Oh, love it. So let's say you're reading a book for leisure and you read something and you stumble across something that might not be 100% accurate. Does that ever get to you, or are you just it's fine?
I mean, I notice it typically. I would say it doesn't necessarily, I mean, sometimes I'm feeling pedantic or picky or something and it annoys me. But for the most part, I think my standard is what does it, the choices that people make about history mean things, right? So it's if the choice doesn't mean anything, then whatever, you know what I mean? If it's just this color of red, they wouldn't have had the chemical dyes for another 20 years. Whatever, who cares? It's just wearing a red dress. It's fine. Yeah. If it's something where it, I'm trying to think of an example that won't call anybody specific out.
All good.
But if it's, a choice where, it implies that there were no, that everyone queer was miserable, or that all right. If it's historically inaccurate and it means something that I find objectionable, Like that's where it bugs me. And I do also like I care more about things where it's like it's sort of like if somebody uses, and again, I don't like, everybody has sort of different priorities unless it's like actually offensive, like it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, for example, if somebody uses like sort of psychoanalytic words in like a Regency, like that will ping me more than it, like if they're like, this is really like really like obsessive compulsive, or like, I'm trying to think what all of the like like a lot of those words of like neurotic and paranoid and like a lot of those words kind of come in the Victorian era, post Freud. And so I'll notice those like a little bit more than I'll notice like, I just happen to know that this word wasn't used. Like, who cares, But
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
And again, it's like, it's not a moral, unless again, it's actually offensive in some way. It's usually not like it's not like a moral issue. It's not like wrong. Then
right,
it's like,
yeah.
Right. But I will sometimes notice it and be minorly, like, I'll notice it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. It's cool that you're like, yeah, it's there. Anyway, next page. So I want to talk about writing queer romance and queer historical romance. Can you tell me more about that and like, how, because you don't see it as much as you see cisgendered heterosexual romance, especially I think and I could be wrong, when it comes to historical romance.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot more. And again, this is not a criticism of anyone because I love those books as well. But there's like definitely a lot more MM than FF currently. But in some ways, writing, I mean, I guess certainly there were queer people, you know what I mean? So like in some ways it doesn't feel, I mean, I would like to read more of it. I would love for there to be more of it. Certainly, I guess the market for it is maybe different, but in terms of writing it, I don't necessarily feel like my process was any different or anything. Like I have definitely done a lot of research, like going way back on like queer historical topics. And so it wasn't something that I necessarily, it was something I already felt comfortable with. Like I had a gay secondary romance in Lily Among Thorns, and I did some research for that. Like my favorite book as a starting place is Strangers by Graham Robb. And I think there's just this perception that like, and not from everyone, but like a lot of people, especially if they haven't researched it, that like in the past, there was like no openly queer stuff and everything queer was underground and like everyone was closeted and everyone was miserable and like pined away and whatever. And like, it's really like, once you actually start to look at it, it's simply not the case. Like there's tons and tons of queer people with queer friends doing queer stuff everywhere and like writing queer books and, just like kind of putting like a vague varnish of not being queer on it. And just like, and so like, I always get so annoyed when I read like a critique of like a queer historical thing. And it's like, this person would never be out to their family. It's like, what are you basing that on? Like, can you show me your evidence that no one in the past was out to their family? Because I have some receipts that many people, I'm not saying there was like nothing. I'm not saying it was just like a paradise and everyone was like out all the time and like no one was worried about being prosecuted or anything. Right. Like, but I mean, men, like women, it wasn't like lesbian sex was not illegal. So like that was but in England specifically. But like, there are many examples of people whose families knew that they were queer. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't like, what are you basing this on? Like your imagination. Like, that's really what I think. Like, I don't care about anachronisms and themselves. What I care about are sort of these assumptions about the past that tend to simply take like the Victorian era and like draw it back in a straight line, that like everything in the past was just like more repressed, like infinite, as opposed to it being like cyclical, right? Like sexual mores are cyclical. Yeah.
That's so awesome, because I feel like people assume that they have this like whitewashed assumption of what history must have been like. And they're very adamant about that.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't have to know, but if you don't know that you don't know,
Yeah. So upon like researching queer history in like the Regency era, what were some revelations to you as you were just like looking at, you know, how like everyone was able to like live their lives openly or not openly?
I mean, I think like specific to the Regency, I'm not sure. I mean, there were definitely like queer, like Byron is queer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And had a lot of queer friends. Like, I think just like seeing like that, like queer communities, like in the past was like very cool when I was first looking into it. Like like seeing that Byron had like gay friends from college, you know what I mean? That he like wrote letters to about like his love life or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember there was a thing, and this is obviously much later, but where there was a guy who in like Germany in the late 19th century, I want to say maybe the early 20th century. And he, as an experiment, he put an ad in the paper, like a personals ad that was like gentleman seeking friend for companionship or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like, he submitted it to like, I mean, all of these numbers are wrong. Like I can, when this comes out, I'll tweet the footnote because I don't have the exact information right now, but like, you know, and it was like, he submitted it to like 37 journals. Only 11 of them published it because the other ones knew immediately that it was a gay thing, presumably.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got like 113 responses, like 2/3 of which were like openly just like, yeah, I'm gay. Like, let's hook up. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like people were like it wasn't open, but that doesn't mean it wasn't happening. Right. Like the fact that like, you know, it's like, I was just talking about this with Kat Sebastian on Twitter of like this thing where it's like, you know, in the 19th century or whatever, it's like, okay, like if you talk openly about gay stuff, like we'll punish you. And now it's like, well, if they were gay, they would have just said so. So clearly they weren't gay. And it's like, wait a second, like those things cannot exist, right? They cannot both be true. Like either it was not safe to openly talk about gay stuff in the past. And therefore, like, we need to be thoughtful about who's gay or not because they couldn't say so. Or like, if they were, and then there was like no homophobia and everyone was out. Like, I don't know. Like, it's like, there's this cognitive dissonance that happens where like,
it feels like it's still something where correct me if I'm wrong, but like people think there needs to be rules and they're figuring out what those rules are, but there doesn't necessarily need to be rules.
Well, what rules about?
Like rules about like how like gay people should have been portrayed in those books. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's like just the arguments I see on Twitter, I think is like kind of gets to me sometimes of like, it should be like this. It shouldn't be like this. You're wrong. And feels like in the end, the reader loses if you know what I mean.
There's a range of human experience. Like, I just
exactly.
feel like people want to flatten everything to like, this is how it was in the past. And it's like, okay, like if you know, tell me how gay people live today, all gay people, right? It's like, you're not going to be able to give me one answer because there's a range of human experience in every era. And so it's
absolutely. So with that, I'm curious, how do you feel like your own interpretation of how like the stories in Regency romance and your books and other books, how those stories can kind of reflect like what's going on today in terms of like who we are, politics, things like that?
I mean, I think like I feel like I think about it sometimes as like an AU, if that makes it like, which is like an alternate universe in like fandom terms. Where it's like you take the characters and then you put them in another setting and then you have to sort of translate all the details, right? So it's like, okay, if if Spock were a barista, right, then like,
yes,
what would that mean? Like, how would I sort of take like Spock's parents and then like figure out how to make that like contemporary romance barista situation where it's like, okay, like he's, I get his mother's a teacher and his father's an ambassador. You can keep that right. It's like, but maybe he's an ambassador from like Germany or something. You know what I mean? It's it's like, and he comes from this like autocratic culture, right? It's like, there's all, I mean, not sorry, German people, like I'm not, but like, you know what I mean? It's like, you have to figure out how to like take like these things and then like kind of reinterpret them in a way that feels coherent but recognizable. And so I think it's like not like, I don't just want to be telling stories that are like, I'm taking this whatever modern thing and I'm just like putting it in like, Regency clothes and it's the same. But like, I do think that there's like that human experience, first of all, is like, there are continuities in it. There are also things that change. I mean, a culture is very powerful, right? Like this human society is constructed. And so if it's constructed differently, like things are different, but at the same time, there are continuities in human emotional experience. And there are a lot, I mean, the more like whenever I sit down to read about any historical period, like inevitably I'm like, oh, wow, it's just like today, right? Like if you read like about the Regency and it's like the Industrial Revolution and everything is being mechanized and people are losing their jobs because like the work is now being done in like by machines in factories instead of by individual, it's like, and then it's being outsourced to other places. And then, right, it's like all like it's not that different, right? I think we like to imagine that the past was like vastly different so that we can imagine that there's been all this progress and feel great about where we're at. But in fact, I mean, if you look at the actual situation in the past, it's not that different. Again, obviously there are major differences, but I read, what was it called? It was like, I was just read this book, Watching the English, about like English culture by an English anthropologist. And she talks about, I think it's called ethnographic dazzle, she called it maybe, but it's this thing where it's like you look at two cultures or two, for any kind of way that you define culture, but these like superficial differences will be so distracting to you that you won't notice the underlying similarities. And I think there's a lot of that with the Regency where it's like a lot of things are different and they're so dramatically or visually different that people don't notice the things that are similar. I had this like comment in a review, and I hate to complain about reviews because like I appreciate all reviews. Like I'm not, but this person was saying that like, oh, like she's just right because there's like a lot of local politics in the Lively St. Leviston series, and there's like two local political parties that are both very active. And she's like, oh, this is just like she's just writing about the Democrats and the Republicans, like and it's like, do you think there weren't political parties in the past? Like, I just don't know how to even wrap my brain around that as a critique because like, of course, like I'm saying things or I'm telling stories that feel relevant or meaningful to me from my perspective of having thoughts about the political parties. Right. But like, I researched those political parties very carefully in the way that they operate and like the patronage and the, the way they have local colors and like all of this stuff that's sort of like the details of it and the specific positions that they take in politics. I researched all of that very carefully. And the fact that it's similar to the Democrats and the Republicans just means that there's something in the system of political parties that is inherent to that structure of doing politics, not that I just dressed up modern stuff. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
And like hearing you say that, I'm like, petty, need to work on myself. And so when I hear that, I'm like, that reviewer should have known. And I'm just like, do you ever like run into that where like someone says that's not it and about like something you wrote and you're like, no, like.
I mean, I really try to be mature and to just keep that for the group chat if I ever get in my feelings about that.
That's smart. It's good.
I have been known. I mean, look, if somebody sends me a correction that's wrong, I will respond and be like, here are my footnotes, right?
Yeah.
If I just come across it and they didn't directly address me in any way, I kind of feel like I have to let it go. But I can't deny that sometimes I do. Again, it's like you don't have to know, right? Like there's no reason to know everything. But if you don't know, then don't assume that you know.
Yes.
That's all. Like I remember I got like somebody wrote a think piece about my books. And again, like, I don't, I'm not trying to call anybody out, but they specifically called out this one element of one of my books. And they said that they had done, they had like done like a half hour of Googling and they couldn't find any evidence for this. It's like, I read like 4 books and like 15 scholarly articles. And like, you know what I mean? Like I had really, like that happened to be specifically a thing that I had really extensively researched. And I was just like, I get it, but it's like, at the same time, it's like, and you can say I did half an hour of Googling and I'm not sure, but I couldn't find anything. But don't be like, I did half an hour of Googling and now I have the answer.
Yes. It's those words. It's that nuance that like separates you from being a person who's thinking to being a person who maybe isn't being nice at that moment in time, in my opinion. Okay, so before I let you go, just based on what are the topics we have been discussing, have you been watching Bridgerton?
I actually, I wish that I had so that we could talk about it. I watched the first couple of episodes, but I happened to be staying with family when it came out and also had a couple of really intense freelance projects. And so I enjoyed it and I did want to keep watching, but I fell off and I didn't make it through. I definitely shipped Penelope Eloise very hard though.
Yeah. Eloise is like my favorite. I was like, I'm sure she's going to be in the next season or something. She doesn't die. That's, I'm not spoiling anything for you.
Eloise did not die at this time.
It's like nothing crazy happens, but she was like my favorite character. And I'm like excited for her to like have her own be the protagonist, I guess, in the next season. I have no idea. Yeah.
Ship her with Penelope so hard. They're so cute together.
I know.
And I hear it gets even more intense later and she's like throwing rocks at Penelope's window and they're like agreeing that they don't ever want to get married and like, but like, I just saw like, they're across the street and they get like little wave at each other. And I was just like, oh, are they in love?
Wouldn't that be great? That would be so great.
Oh, I would.
So based on the few episodes you have seen, as a romance writer, how did you feel about just what you have seen in those first episodes that you watched?
I mean, I don't like, there wasn't a ton of romance. Like I definitely, when I found out there was going to be fake dating, that definitely pulled me back in. Like I had initially, like my main thing with television is that if it's not really fast paced, it loses me because I'm just like a little squirrel. So it's like, in some ways it felt like a lot kind of like Gossip Girl, which I love. Like I love Gossip Girl. I love Gossip Girl. Like if we start on Gossip Girl, I'll just be talking about like Gossip Girl craft writing stuff for like the rest of time.
I mean, Chuck Bass is my spirit animal.
Oh, Chuck Bass. I mean, we shouldn't say spirit animal because it's like cultural appropriation.
Good point.
And now we can't say Patronus because J.K. Rowling is a piece of trash.
Yeah. But what should I say?
I don't know. I don't know. Chuck Bass is my heart.
That's it. Chuck Bass is my heart.
These eclairs are reserved for Chuck Bass.
Yeah. I
remember when I first started watching that, like a few years after it had already been on for, a few years at the time. And I just remember being like, I can't believe none of you told me about Chuck Bass. Like, this is the most predictable thing that I would love Chuck Bass in like the entire world. Like, and you all just like, didn't tell me.
I was like looking at my Facebook, which I haven't adjusted in years since college. And I guess I had written this in college, but it said my religion. And I had written in Chuck Bass. I was like, oh yeah. I used to be really into Gossip Girl.
The thing about Chuck Bass is that he's like so terrible. He's like he's the Mr. Rochester, right? Like he is the Mr. Rochester of Gossip Girl. And like when he says to Nate, I ship him with everybody except for maybe Serena, but like him and Nate are like a prototype. Like that's the thing that I will always be into is like a Chuck Nate situation. But like when he says, I care about 3 things, Nathaniel, money, the pleasures money can bring me, and you, like, I'm just like, well, put a fork in me. I'm done.
I think what makes me laugh about that is that he's 17 years old.
Yes, but so in love with Nate though already.
Yes, yeah.
So in love. But so that you'll see, like, if you to go back to Gossip Girl archetypes for a second, there's a character. So the main character in Wife in the Attic, the Jane character, has a best friend from school who's also like her ex-girlfriend. And they are like a little bit of a Blair Serena relationship because Blair Serena is also the only real thing in the world.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
And so like I kind of like drew on some Blair Serena elements in like thinking about that relationship. And so the second book is about the Serena character. So I'm rewatching Gossip Girl.
Well, on that note, I think this is a great final plug for the book. If you like Gossip Girl, you will like Wife in the Attic.
The read-alike I've dreamed of all my life.
Well, I am so excited for everyone to listen to it. I'm excited to listen to it. And Rose, thank you so much for being a guest today. This was so much fun.
Yes, thank you for having me. I could talk about like Jane Eyre and Gossip for like literally all day. So,
Too Stupid to Live is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. It includes so many great podcasts, including this one.
There are many fish in the sea, but girls like us don't grow on trees. You say,
Hey guys, I'm Franny,
And I'm Sophie.
and we're the hosts of Girls Like Us.
On the Frolic Podcast Network, you can check us out every Monday asking the question, what does a degree in literature get you?
With The Answer, a podcast about children's books. We cover The Click, Pretty Little Liars.
And just random YA books sent to us by listeners.
New episodes come out every Monday. Bye!
For more podcasts you'll love, visit frolic.media/podcasts. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great rest of your day.